All right. Well, good morning. Good morning. Welcome to Tacobout Live here in Del Rio, Texas, with Manny and Frank. I want to thank you for joining us. How you doing this morning, brother?
Morning, morning.
Good morning,
What's up?
morning. Another Taco Tuesday and episode 61. So we're going along. And today we got an awesome brother in arms joining us here pretty soon in the next few minute or so. Actually, pretty quickly. But man, we got a lot to talk about here, Frank.
Yeah, we sure do. Man, well, it's another day in America. How you liking it now?
I'll tell you, brother, what's happening now, man. It's amazing to me, brother, because uh, it just seems like it. I don't know. I know I've said it a few episodes ago that it seems like sometimes it can't get worse and worse, but it is, right? It is. I mean, the Democrats are, of course, cheering because inflation is like 7.1 today, but it's still bad. You know what I mean? It's still bad. It's like, uh, well, it's not 8.1, right?
Yeah.
You know, but it's still bad.
Yeah, well, it's part of the conditioning. Part of the what they do, Manny. You know this. They push the narrative. They repeat it, and repeat it, because they know there's a lot of gullible Americans out there, bro. Aren't gonna freaking double check on anything that's said. They're just gonna buy it hook, line, and sinker.
Yep. No, you're exactly right, brother. You're exactly right. But today we got a very important topic we want to discuss. We're going to bring on board with us Gil Maza here from Old Patrol. So, brother, I just want to say good morning to you, bro. How you doing, man?
Hey, good morning, guys. It's really good to see you both, and it's really good to be talking to you today. This early morning for me.
So we got you all the way from San Diego, California, brother.
That's right.
With us today, man. So very excited to have you here, bro. Very excited to have you here, man. Of course,
It's good to see you both.
of course we go back quite a ways, right? Retired Border Patrol as well, and one of our chaplains served with us for many years in the chaplaincy corps as well, and current with events, and even of course what we're going to be talking about today, not only line of duty deaths, but the greatest problem that we have facing our agents is suicide, right?
Well, it's one of the biggest ones as far as this last year, right? 14 in this fiscal year, um, four in 2 weeks and 3 weeks if you count the OFO officer that died as well, and so it is definitely an issue.
And I'm sure agents reach out to you still, brother. I know they reach out to us, but I'm sure they reach out to you. Yeah.
All day, brother, all day, every day. Like I said before, when I retired, it was not my intention to start, getting on and doing this kind of commentary for the patrol. My thing was that the old patrol and the new patrol has a connection, right? We have that spirit of the history, our heritage, our legacy that ties us all together. The sign cutters, the drug sniffers, the guys, the go-getters back in the day. We still have those types of agents now that follow all those same traditions, and I wanted to honor that, right? I wanted to keep the mythology alive, keep the morale going, and you know what? As a filthy capitalist, sell a few trinkets on the
Yeah.
side.
Yep.
But then I wake up one morning, and as you well know, these guys don't have a voice.
Yeah.
The men and women of the patrol can't speak out, can't express their opinions. We have OPR investigations all across the country now of agents who simply express their views about this administration or what's going on, and are now being persecuted, pursued, and disciplined for simply speaking their minds, simply just posting on my page. I've seen where my site figures prominently in the language of their memos,
Oh
right?
yeah.
Old Patrol this, Old Patrol page this, Old Patrol page that, and they're going all the way back to last January, not January of 2022, but 2021.
Gil, it's not a surprise, bro, because there's always been that element. Yeah, you got some great patriots and, folks that uphold the Constitution, believe uh, in the rule of law within the agency. But then you've got bureaucrats, fortunately, lifers at the highest ranks, who are just checking the boxes to promote, to get that bigger paycheck, to get the bigger pension, and part of that means that they're going to sell their soul for that, man. And Gil, there's good guys. There's good guys
Yes.
that go down fighting. They try to do what they can to, throw themselves in front of the train, to take care of the men and women, the ground pounders in the Border Patrol. But you certainly have this element of box checkers, butt kissers, who don't care about the rest of their brethren in the patrol. And that's also part of the problem as to what's going on here. What we're seeing is the selling out of America, even by green, by the green, we call ourselves green shirts, by even green shirts. And some of these guys, and I'm speaking specifically, hey, just gonna freaking start throwing out the rocks this morning with the Border Patrol Union and what they're doing, agreeing with Democrats, saying that a little bit of amnesty is not as bad as a whole lot of amnesty.
Yeah. Yeah, and then of course Brandon Judd going out there and supporting DACA, which we all know. I know President Trump, and he tried to say President Trump support DACA. President Trump really did support DACA. He was trying to work,
Use a leverage point.
use it as a leverage, yeah, and use it to eventually do away with it because it was unconstitutional.
Yeah.
We all know it was unconstitutional, but now all of a sudden, now you got this little dash of amnesty, right, being promoted by the Border Patrol Union, and then you got the mass influx of illegal aliens. It's going to get worse on December 21st, right, with Title 42 being lifted completely, and it just gets worse and worse, and then. And I'm gonna start throwing some rocks too, man. They hire a suicidologist who says that the workload has nothing to do with what is happening, right? With the suicides, right? It's not related.
Yeah, and that's like saying that throwing chum in the water is not a reason that sharks are going to get attracted. Part of and folks, for y'all that are listening, real quick, Gil mentioned OPR, Office of Personal Responsibility. That's the Internal Affairs, quote unquote, division within DHS, Customs and Border Protection. Some people call them headhunters. But anyways, the other thing that we're talking about here is, the politics, the operational tempo, what's happening in the political sphere is directly going to impact the operational arena. It's going to operate the field. And consequently, as a result of that, these operations, the tempo is going to affect the well-being, the morale, the psyche, the spiritual life, emotional health of our Border Patrol agents, and consequently their families and those that love and care for them. And it does have an effect. And for this guy, the suicidologist, to come out and say, it's minimal, the impact, if any, of the work environment. Is totally contrary to what we know to be the truth.
Yep. Yeah, in our experience, if real quick, in our experience, let's just put aside the crisis for a moment.
Yeah.
Just the law enforcement lifestyle, the law enforcement life, the career is already hard enough, and we already had a lot of suicide because of what this job does to people, right? Whether in the work, the family life, and everything else like that. And how disingenuous to say, and I don't know why he would feel he has to say that the crisis has nothing to do with it.
I'm gonna tell you why I think he said what he said. He wants to keep a paycheck, brother. That's my opinion. Whether you believe that or not, whether people agree with me or not, brother. And I'm not trying to be cold and callous, but my experience has been, brother, we've had people come in, and you and I, we all know we've had people come into our agency, right, trying to do so-called the great work, right, and then but all they really end up doing is wanting to collect a paycheck, man. And sad to say, I mean, it's a good paycheck, right?
Oh, heck yeah, it's great pay. And that's the thing, this guy flat out in the beginning of the article says the crisis has nothing to do with it. Well, he to a certain point, yes, it wasn't the number one factor,
but it is a factor.
But it is a mitigating factor, because it's that added pressure to what's going on. He says, well, it's, without giving away too much, it's these last suicides were about relationships. Yeah, but that law enforcement life coupled with this horrific crisis on top of all that is a strong mitigating factor. And I happen to know for a fact that a few people, that was the final straw, was that pressure from work and what they saw happening around them, what they saw happening to the people, to the people they were in charge of. That was the final straw.
Yeah.
It may not have been the number one straw, but it was a final straw. So let's not brush the entire thing off and say it's not about that. We don't have to worry about the crisis.
Yeah.
But how do you deal with the problem you can't even admit it exists?
Exactly. And they won't deal with it because right. It's sad to say, suicide does have a stigma within law enforcement, right? It does. I mean, to tell you the truth, they didn't start addressing suicide until, what, 2010 with Chief Aguilar. Remember, they never even used to announce.
Yes.
They never even used to announce suicides, on to the agents, right? That this agent, it just said this agent is died, right? This
Yes.
she died, and then they started announcing and making it known that it was by suicide. It didn't happen until like 2010. How long has we been an
Yeah.
agency? Since 1924, right? And we've had a lot of suicides. I think between 2010 and 2012, we led the federal service, right, in suicides with 27 suicides within those 2 years. Now we've had 14 this year alone.
And guys, part of the operational tempo and the policies, I see that as the two-headed, hydra here, beast that's affecting the agents and men and women out in the field. Look, if you look at that that solution, the policy that our elected officials are fixing to try to promote and try to implement. In it, you see that they have thrown more money at the problem to begin with, and we said it over and over again. Right? Government's first solution is to throw more money at the problem.
Yes.
Because what they want to do is they want to expand their footprint. They want to get bigger, more powerful, more influence, which means, honestly, more control over the American people. So that's the first thing you see, is they're throwing more money at the problem. Some people are going to say, hey, man, don't touch our paycheck. But yeah, they're talking about a 14% increase in pay for Border Patrol agents. Look, that means agents will be getting probably close to $100,000 a year base salary.
But at what cost?
Somewhere's in there.
Yeah.
And part of what they're wanting to do, throwing more money at the problem, is hiring more people. And we get into that dynamic. Here we go again. Remember, guys, I was an A chief up at headquarters dealing with recruitment in the mid-2000s under the Bush administration. And it is difficult enough to hire people to come to go work for law enforcement, especially the current anti-law enforcement
Yes.
sentiment in this country. But now you want them to come to the U.S.-Mexico border, and they still haven't addressed a lot of the issues that encompasses, which means taking people away from their home environment, taking them away from their support structure, bringing them to an isolated community where the families, let alone the agents, the families don't know anybody. And so that's where that starts directly to dovetail, connect with what you guys are talking about, the relationship issues that's going to cause. Yep. And part of what they're also doing with the operational tempo is the money solution that they always come up with. They want to build more processing centers. They want to hire more Border Patrol agents, which just means more meat for the grinder. It's just a body count. It's just
more processes and
it's
release, but
more process and release.
Frank, yeah. But look, here's the problem. So they mentioned in the suicidologist, right? Which I don't even know what that means, and I don't know how you become one. But okay, the pulse of everything that I get. If I had to narrow it down to the number one, sentiment is that you can have all the clinicians on site you want. You can have all the EAP. And if the Border Patrol actually all of a sudden put the infrastructure in place to allow chaplaincy and peer support to actually do their work and be effective, that would be a first.
Yep.
Okay. Except for individual times like Manny, like myself, like probably you, Frank, that got, great chiefs actually give us opportunity to really do the job right, to really do it right. Nobody trusts the process.
Yeah.
You could have a perfect program, but right now, nobody trusts that if they ask for help, especially when it concerns suicide ideology, that they're not going to be immediately added or rubber gunned. And then everybody knows what happened. And secondly, that the process isn't going to screw them over in the long run for promotion, for advancement, for anything else. So, yeah, you have this beautiful program, this perfect program, but guess what? It's a poison pill for most of the people in the Border Patrol. So now what?
Yeah, I've got here a copy of their latest memorandum. Came actually on December 5 of this year. It's a healthy and resilient workforce, and they're talking about the employee mental well-being support services guidance. I don't know if you saw that, guys, as well. I'm sure internal sources gave this stuff to you. But once again, it's what you're talking about, Gil. It's it's going to say we CBP, we the hierarchy, we managers and supervisors have control of our employees' lives. And look, they're employees to a certain extent. Should they offer services? Yes, yeah, definitely. Should they offer support? Of course they should. But as I look through this document, what it does is it refers to that stovepipe, which is either management or employee assistance program clinicians. And we know that these people are hired, they're contractors, they get paid, and therefore they answer and are responsible to the hiring entity. And so what that means is that at the end of the day, they're responsible not to the employee in crisis, they're responsible to the organization. And so
Yes.
and so what they don't, and they do say in here, I was looking for one specific thing. What about outside services? And the closest it comes that says is the EAP personnel will refer to behavioral scientists, blah blah blah, counselors, etc. But it's going to be a controlled referral. And so what our employees, something that we try to do within the chaplaincy program when we were working on it, was to say, yeah, there's an internal component that needs to be in place, but equally as, if not more important, is the external component. And what I'm talking about there is clergy outside the organization, support and services outside the organization, and
Yes.
the support structure for the families, with parent PTAs, and being involved in the life of their children, being involved in the life of the community, being civically involved. All these are important components. And so what they're doing here is, once again, is wanting to keep a control of what services are going to our employees, because at the end of the day, they're looking for to cover their butts. They are looking for the liability factor. They want to cover their butts, and so they want to be in control of that process. And what our agents need is true assistance, true help, and part of that means cutting the link, cutting the cord to the organization. Our agents, our employees, in order to receive the life-saving care that they need to see that there are no strings attached.
Exactly.
The agency is not going to know anything about their cry for help. The agency is not going to know about it. And there's some points, hey, look, so they're an employee. Okay, they're an employee, but you don't have to know everything that's going on in their lives. You don't have to. And so our agents need that. They need that security. Ultimately, DHS, Homeland Security employees need security away from the bureaucrats who are just, in the most cases, they're just butt kissers who are going to do the will of the organization, of the hierarchy.
And I'll tell you something else too. I'll add something else to that. I think how many hours do managers, supervisors spend on suicide prevention? Right. It's not really. We'll come in as chaplains and peer support members and EAP. We're given like an hour block many times, sometimes in their training. This is what the program entails, right? When I before I retired, our sector gave me an opportunity to conduct 3 days of suicide prevention, intervention, post-vention, and death notification to supervisors, right? Praise the Lord, we had a really good chief at the time, Chief Skiro, and he allowed me to do those 3 days. And I'm going to tell you, just about every supervisor that was in that class said, why didn't we have this training when we first became supervisors, right? Because to help us become aware of this, how to deal with it. Because I'll tell you, I've talked to many supervisors over the years, I'm sure you guys had, and every time I would tell them, look, the hard question many times is, are you thinking about committing suicide, right? It's always one of the hard questions. And I've had members or supervisors over the year tell me, well, the reason I don't ask that question is because I don't want to give them the idea, right? Have you ever heard that? Yeah. Right? And I'm like, that's not how it works, brother. That's not how it works. Many times asking that question opens up the door.
That's like the people say, well, if I don't talk about the elephant in the room doesn't exist.
Yeah,
which is
it's kind of like, are you thinking about suicide? Well, I wasn't until you mentioned it. That's not the way it works, right?
That's just like the holidays are the worst part for suicide. Like that, they're still putting out that myth that the holidays are the worst for for suicides when we know that's
It's
not
not. Yeah,
true.
it's not the case. It's a lot of myths. There's a lot of myths going on in there, and then there's kind of the neglecting of the totality of circumstances of what it takes to be a law enforcement officer, right? Because we're not the only ones who
Yes.
deal with suicide, right? There's other agencies that deal with it.
And an easy way to poke holes in that, guys, is to let's look at this holiday season. And not that I'm asking for suicides or anything like that, but let's just look at this holiday season and as a whole. You look at this, okay, let's start at Thanksgiving and go through December, and then to the end of through the rest of the year, you weigh that out. Look, at the end of the day, our men and women need for the agency within. If we're addressing suicide here, folks. We're addressing the dynamics that affect the men and women on the front lines of Border Patrol. More money, more pay is not gonna get to the root problem.
No, it's not.
And I'm not saying that anybody that is proposing this this legislation was talking about suicide, but I'm sure somewhere in there, there's people saying, well, they just need to pay more money, whatever. Look,
No.
They'll be happier.
yeah, throw more money at the problem is not the solution, because what it's going to do in this case, it's going to just throw gas on the fire, rub salt in the wound. It's going to make it worse. Primarily with them talking about more processing centers, hiring more people to let more people into the country. Somebody here made a comment, and what he said was, in essence, is this. The men and women, for the most part of Border Patrol, are honorable people. They believe in the mission. They're idealistic people. They're patriots. They want to do their job. They want to protect and defend the country. And what they see happening under this administration is directly opposed to that. And that is playing on their conscience. That is playing on their inner being, on their moral compass. And I would say there is a lot of truth to that. You talk to people, they hate their life. They hate what they're doing. They know this is not right. There's a few that say, "Hey, man, they're paying me to, go make sandwiches and hand out, diapers to people."
There's always going to be those. Yes.
There's going to be those guys, but the vast majority of our men and women want to support, want to uphold, defend our nation, and they are not being allowed to do that. So for this so-called expert to come in and say, the work environment has minimal impact, is just totally. He's covering his bases.
Yeah.
Well, that's just it, right? So one of the number one rules we've always learned, and think about this for a moment. How many times have both of you and I been able to get someone from suicidal ideology to recovery and back to work and promotion and a career without hardly anybody even ever finding out about it, except maybe one person that had to grant them the leave to do what they had to do for a week, maybe two, and then they're gone and on their way, and nobody was the wiser. Nobody knew any different, right? Yeah. We took the steps outside to keep things safe, to keep things secure, and they went on and did their job. And but you're not going to find that today. You're not going to find that today.
And I was going to say, but the greatest fight in that, because just about every chaplain that's involved in chaplaincy in the Border Patrol, and even peer support members by extension, has helped someone, right? Has helped an agent, and even outside, like family members, things like that. But the fight is, right, always having to find that one person, that one manager who's willing to help, right?
Yes.
Who looks at these programs as vital and important, rather than promoting them. Well, I don't need a hug. Why do you want to, right? And so that's always been the battle, right?
Yeah, we always, the term we used was always a champion. We needed to find a champion. We needed to find somebody that believed in the cause and was going to go fight. Look, part of what I was trying to say earlier as well is there has to be a recognition, and look, it's probably not going to happen under this administration, that the agency is not the be-all, end-all, that the agency can supply everything that our employee families need. That's just not going to happen. And certainly when it pertains to peer support and chaplaincy, they have restricted those programs. When we started working on this, I started in 98, 99 working with this, and you guys came on board after that. Part of the vision was that the chaplains specifically would have the ability to operate within the realm of their professional expertise. Look, something that we always heard, I'm sure you always heard, hey, you guys are there just to hold hands in the event of a line of duty death or a tragic incident, critical incident stress, just hold their hands until the professionals can get there. And of course, by professionals, they always meant the mental health clinician. In other words, for you folks out there, the humanists, those that are relying on anything other than God for a solution to the problems
And who had no
of the
idea
world.
how have no idea how the law enforcement mind works.
Yeah, and yeah, typically outsiders, whereas chaplains, we were gun-toting law enforcement agents, but also ministers as well. And so they always did that. They always said, you know, you're just there till the professionals get there. Hey, excuse us. Excuse me, we are professionals. We do study, we do read, etc. We keep up with, you know, training, etc. But if the hierarchy at the highest levels of this organization really want for the suicide issue to be adequately addressed within the Border Patrol, then they are going to have to allow the problems, the elephants, to be paraded out, you know, and you're going to have to talk about them, and you're going to have to, even if it's self-disclosure, they always say that, hey man, we can't air out our dirty laundry for the outside world to see. Look, this is about life and death. This is about men. This is about men and women who are taking their lives and they're leaving behind a life of tragedy, of misery, of sadness, of depression, and possibly even creating a cycle in the lives of their survivors, man. Yeah, go ahead.
Think about this for a moment, though, right? The number one thing is to admit there's a problem. To
Yes.
admit there's a problem. They're trying to teach the agents resiliency, right? They're trying to teach the agents, you know, how to cope with what? With a problem that doesn't exist. They can't talk about the crisis. They can't talk about the lawlessness they see, the lawlessness that they're forced to participate in, dropping people off in the middle of the night, going home and putting civilian clothes on, coming in, picking up an unmarked ride, taking a bunch of bodies out to Uvalde or Eagle Pass, whatever, dropping them off incognito so that we don't see Border Patrol vehicles dropping bodies off in town.
Yeah.
Right? They see, they let go rapists. They let go. They interview women and children that have been raped as payment for their way in, and these agents get that grinds them all day, every day,
every day, right?
But then they go call for help, and they say, you know what? This crisis, what crisis?
Yeah.
Well, there's, you know, we're drowning. Well, no. That's not happening.
Right.
They're from the top down, right? From the Brandon administration to Saint Mamoncas to Magnets, now, you know, the Sleepy Man.
He got fired. He got told to go.
Ortiz,
Yeah.
none of them admit that there's an issue. So therefore, what is your problem?
So what's happening, Gil? To that end, what is happening right now today? We spoke about it pre-show here. Alejandro Mayorkas, the traitor, one of the lead traitors to America, a traitor, not a treasonous guy,
Yep.
is going to be on at the border today. And so what are they doing? They are flushing out illegal aliens as fast as they possibly can,
Yep.
getting them out because
10,000. They want 10,000 processed right now. They brought like everybody in, right, from everywhere to
Yes.
process 10,000 to get them out of sight and out of mind.
because Mayorkas is coming
Mayorkas
to the
is
border
coming.
today.
Yeah. This is
And they left the everything east of El Paso is literally, there is nobody on the line right now watching the border, unmanned, unprotected, unsecured, to clean up for this guy who's going to do what? He's going to come in and take a victory lap. He's going to come in and say how everything's under control and we've processed more people and we are righting all the wrongs of the Trump administration and the border is secure. You don't have to worry about a thing. And it's, you know, it's beyond imagining now. But that's what the agents have to hear him say, have to hear their boss say.
Their boss, right? Their boss, and it's hard because in the back of your mind you're seething. And I think the reason it kind of seems like we're just like, you know, took the top off today and just let everything pour out is because I know you get word, we get word. Believe it or not, agents thank us, man. Like, you know, about, hey, you guys are saying the stuff that we can't say. Right?
Yes.
And we understand the totality of circumstances, the frustration, right? That you're standing here, you're sitting there behind a computer, right, processing, and people think that they're processing people who haven't been through anything, and you're hearing these stories, right, of women being raped and their children dying along the way and being kidnapped by the cartels and trafficked, and then you're seeing then you got to bring them in without any counseling or any help, and then you sit there and a young man comes in who's been who's a convicted rapist, a drug dealer, and acting like this country's he's gonna give him a future now, right? But they're just coming in to do the same thing that they were doing in their country, right? And then they're there with a child who may or may not be theirs. Right.
And there's a lot of cases.
And they can't even ask.
And you can't even ask.
And there's a lot of cases where, we know of these types of people have been released, but what about the ones we don't know? The more horrendous, the more evil people. Something you said earlier, Gil, about everything east of El Paso is open because people are processing. So what's getting across in the meantime? The freaking terrorists. Potentially weapons of mass destruction, the components, the drugs are getting across. And look, this does not happen. And let's just start, let's peel back the layers here. You honestly think, and I'm talking to the audience and I'm talking to the organization heads that are looking at us here, or whoever, the representatives, we know, guys, that they are complicit. That is, sold out actual traitors within our ranks, like every other rank, every other, law enforcement agency has sellouts. And so what am I referring to here? I'm sure that word gets out and says, this is what's happening. If we know it as civilians, we know that everybody's in there processing, the majority of people processing minimal presence in the field. The word gets across to the cartels. The word gets across to the organized, entities, criminal elements. And so there's a spike in movement across the border. There's a spike in.
I got news for you, though.
Go ahead.
I got news for you. I got accused of yesterday of single-handedly informing the cartels that the border is open. Yeah, with my post. In other words, they're finding out that the border is open and therefore taking advantage of the situation because of Old Patrol HQ. Your humble servant is the one informing them.
You're the reason for the invasion.
I'm the one, right?
Wow.
Just one of the free services I provide.
Yeah.
So the trail going to lead back to you.
Wow.
I'm sure you had something to do with Russia and Ukraine too, bro.
Yes, that's amazing, man.
Yeah.
But
that's the mentality.
And that's the last resort of people that have no argument, Gil. They have no argument. They have no counter. Yeah. What they are doing, honestly, is wrong. It is illegal. It is immoral. It is against our Constitution. It is against the very laws that are in the books. Look, I'll give you an example, man, and let's talk about this a little bit, guys. As to what our men and women can do. Somebody here said, resign. Why are you putting up with this?
That's not the.
It's difficult to do. Look, some people might. I've known people that have said, this isn't for me, and they went back to lesser paying jobs. Why? Because their family was there, their home was there. So they weighed the consequences, the pros and the cons. Oh yeah, okay, I get that. It's not that easy to do, though. And some people call our men and women in the Border Patrol traitors. I can understand. I can see where they would come at them with that. And along that vein, the men and women of the Air Marshal Service were told, you're going to go to the border. And what did they do? They said no. They said no. We're not going to do it. And even the Border Patrol Union, of the total hypocrisy, they come out and say, "Hey, look what the air marshals are doing. They're standing their ground. They're saying they're not going to go to the border." Of course, they try to use it as a selling point to push their particular narrative, talking about the union here. When the union itself is such a big problem of this, and I'm not talking about the rank and file stewards at the local stations. Those guys try to help.
Right.
I am talking about Brandon Judd, #1 is who I'm talking about here, as a total sellout. And what do you expect? Look, people make a big deal, and there's anger right now that Brandon Judd is throwing gas on the fire of this problem of agent suicide.
Why is he even in that position? Why is he even that? Let me tell you something about the union, right? You know that the moment you speak about the union, they swarm on you like ants, right? They're little cronies, they're little protectors. It's almost like protecting, the Omen child, right? They got that one demon woman that protects it like this, right? But think about this for a moment. The majority of agents in the entire patrol think that they dropped the ball on our pay.
Yeah.
We all know they dropped the ball on this vax mandate because they said their best lawyers couldn't figure out what to do with it, and yet agents got lawyers and got it stopped and
Independently,
got
on
it
their own.
paused,
Independent.
right?
But
And
they
now
got
they're
beards though.
involved
They
in
got
all
beards.
this.
You guys. I mean, they got
Right.
yeah, got beards.
But think about this, right? And then now this whole DACA thing. So I say if that's true, then the problem isn't the agents that don't understand you. The problem is your messaging. You did not come out and message appropriately the pay thing. You did not come out and message this whole thing. All you're doing is snarkily remarking back that we just don't get it. So all us yokels that still don't understand what the hell happened to our pay. It's not. Is it our problem, or wasn't it your job to make sure we all understood and knew? But you don't show up to a union meeting. Nobody goes to the union. Well, then it's your job to get the message out. You get the free time. You get the pay. You get everything.
But it's always been interesting to me as well. And look, I'm not trying to downplay any chief, but we have some chiefs in the Border Patrol that aren't good at what they do. And then you hear the union mirroring and mimicking or repeating their words, right? In agreement with these chiefs that, and I'm going to say that the current one right now is his silence. What we said it the other day, right? His silence is deafening on this issue, right? On agent suicide right now.
His silence is deafening, but his actions are not. Okay, we have a chief that has sold out the patrol and has sold out this country. We have a green uniform. He tells me that he's trying to protect the position of chief from a civilian. I would have rather had a million times over some civilian liberal douchebag selling out America, selling out our country, selling out the patrol than someone in a green uniform. This guy has, and everybody knows it. It's a joke in RGV. It's a joke in the Border Patrol. He set up his girlfriend with a GS-15 position, right? She is allowed to run roughshod on agents and punish them and take away details, take away promotions. She now has been set up with a cushy job as a GS-15 in RGV, so that when he retires, she's going to be sitting pretty, and they're going to be sitting pretty. He's probably got a place on board at the Border Patrol Foundation because they love him there, and that's fine with me. I don't care. But the whole Border Patrol sees what he's doing, doesn't defend his agents, doesn't lift a finger. He's got a gag order, so he can't speak. His hands are tied. Well, you sold out but your mouth was open. He defended Mayorkas like he was the second coming of Christ. He championed Mayorkas to me on the phone. He's like, you don't understand what this guy is doing for the patrol, what he's doing for our agents. He agonizes over him. He fights hard for them. I'm like, are you kidding me right now? Yeah, right. So that's his view. So what do you do with that when the top guy is completely sold you out, and the only way he could keep that job, you and I both know, is because he had to sell out. Rodney Scott was with them for 8 months, and he had to quit because he would not put out that message. The border's closed, the border's secure, we're doing a fine job, everybody's doing, we're reversing the policies, all this good stuff. He would not go out and do that, so therefore he got served. Why hasn't this guy gotten served even after the AG under oath forced him to say it was their fault?
And agents are asking those types of questions. Agents are asking because they're dumbfounded, right?
Well, I mean, man, one thing that I loved, and I've said it over and over again, whenever I see the guys out on the field, I love them, man. The other day, I was in San Antonio at an academy. I ran into one of the guys. He was outside. It was great to see the persons that I've worked with in the field. I always enjoyed that the most, hanging out with the agents, talking about stuff versus attending some BS supervisory meeting. Anyways, let's not diverge real quick. What I wanted to say is you're talking about, it's not a surprise that even within this organization, and we are so passionate about it because this is our organization. They want it to be our patrol. They want it to be honor first within the agency, within the organization. They want us to live by that model, honor first. And how is what this organization is allowing to happen to our country? How is that honorable? Look, and that's why I bring up the air marshals. They said, no, I am not going. We are not going. And the union tried to tout it as some kind of play on the Biden administration, but yet against the Biden administration. But yet, what is the union doing? They are agreeing now. Look, one little amnesty leads to more amnesties. That's what happened with IRCA. 1986, Ronald Reagan, worked with the Democrats. They stabbed him in the back on that, and that opened up the floodgate to consequently more amnesties happening. And so that's what we're seeing here. And so the union, it didn't surprise me, guys, when they went along with it, because they have endorsed over time, they have endorsed Democrats as well as establishment Republicans like Tony Gonzalez,
Rhinos and globalists.
Henry Cuellar. But look, they endorsed Mayorkas back in 2019 when his name was being thrown out as a potential DHS secretary.
A man who hates us.
They endorsed him. The Border Patrol Union endorsed him, and so that's why, when people are saying, "Well, Frank, the Border Patrol Union endorsed Tony Gonzalez." No freaking surprise there.
And so what? So what?
They are a political animal as well. And really, you think about it, you drill down, why does DHS, why does CBP even have a union to begin with? Well, there's pros and cons. We can talk about that. Because there are definitely some bad freaking managers that have no business, not even selling freaking flipping hamburgers or anything like that because of what's going on in their heads. But they do need some protections. But the Border Patrol Union, these guys don't even work in the field anymore. They are given carte blanche to do and go wherever they want to go. And
the head guys. We still got a lot of stewards
guys.
there and there.
Yeah, we're not talking about the union guys. We're talking about the head.
Hey, I hear from the stewards, guys. I hear from a lot of the stewards across the country, and they're sick to their stomach with what they're seeing their upper guys in the union doing, and they're trying to do everything they can on the ground, just like we have managers, right? We have managers across the country from the top down, even chiefs in DC that are sick to their stomach, trying hard to mitigate what's coming down to the field. These watch commanders. I mean, the majority of people that committed suicide are managers. Is that a coincidence?
That's amazing, right? And I'm not saying that those guys should be tougher than the young guys, because everybody deals with issues differently, right? But a lot of times the higher you get, and they're those especially managers at that level are going to be working more hours. They're going to be dealing with more frustration because, remember back in the day, when we first came in, we had the senior patrol agent position, right? I was a senior patrol agent. I got selected as a senior patrol agent, and then you moved on to supervisor. So they had this buffer, right? You had this buffer between the soups and the line agents, right? There's no more of that buffer, right? So what happens is now you got these first line supervisors who are getting slammed from the bottom, from the agents, and then from the top, right? Yep. It's just on and on and on and on.
In the middle.
Right? They're stuck in the middle all the time. The hardest job, in my opinion, today is a first line supervisor, right? Because they don't get to go out patrol anymore. They're stuck there all day long, right? They're getting slammed on every single side, and then they got to go home and maybe spend an hour or two, if that, trying to deal with family issues, right? And then you get families that don't even want to be here on the border, right? Because I know we've all seen it. Well, I don't know about San Diego. Every time you get to San Diego, it's like, but I know here on the border, where I'm at, I've seen spouses come, take one look at this area. It's like, I'm not staying here. Yeah. They get on a plane, and we got to take a bus to get on a plane from here. But right, they get out and they leave, right? So now you got this family dynamic that is separated. Plus, you got the totality of circumstances, and people don't realize what agents see, what we experience in these small communities. We basically outnumber all law enforcement. So not only are we dealing with illegal aliens, we're dealing with backing up with officers with domestics, drunk drivers, right? Yep. You name it. Yeah, we're there.
So let's talk a little bit. There's a lot of stuff. Definitely, you folks, you're watching, man. We're just boom all over the map here. This does coalesce. It is all part of. These are all different dynamics, though, at different levels and across the spectrum here. But one of the things that another issue that I noticed, guys, is the political correct, the wokeness that started creeping into the Border Patrol, and I say that as opposed to dealing with real issues. They went after the national federal government. They have months for everything. Black History Month, Hispanic History Month, June is LGBTQ month. They got months for everything, whatever. And they push this wokeness, this diversity wokeness within the organization. How about addressing the real dynamics, the real issues? We try to push that stuff. When we were working on the chaplaincy program, we wanted to get to let's cut right down to it. Let's get to the bone, which was suicide, domestic violence, and substance abuse by law enforcement officers. And if you look at suicide, what's happening within our organization, the depression, the incidence of of agents getting themselves into trouble, a large portion of them have to deal with relationships. And when you throw in, alcohol as self-medication, and then that leads to domestic violence, and now you got issues going on. There's different components, and I'm not saying that every single agent, has issues with it. There's a lot of agents that are, leading, good lives with their families, etc. But there's certain dynamics within the agency that have to be addressed. And, I came in '88, probably on the outskirts, of the old patrol there. But it was a different time, was a different environment. Manny, what you talked about earlier with a journeyman, it's an apprenticeship-based profession. One generation teaches the next generation, teaches the next generation. That is vital, for family. It's vital for society, and especially within, law enforcement, border patrol. We needed that. Yeah, could there be tweaks here and there? Yeah, I had one. I had one journeyman tell me, man, you know how to properly dispose of bodies and stuff like that on the field. Okay, there's always going to be the outlier out there. How much of it was
Of course.
just.
That's what makes it fun. That's what makes it fun.
How much of that was meant to scare the noob on the block here, but anyways, they're.
But Manny, Frank, let me say real quick. The thing about it is too is look, we're an entirely different patrol. Okay, we're dinosaurs in a past, right? We're that old guard, and we're what we used to do, how we used to do it. It's not going to work anymore. We have a patrol that is young. We have a patrol that's inexperienced. We have a patrol that, even at the academy, there's a lot of things they don't do anymore because they don't want to put a lot of pressure and a lot of, of stress on the agents anymore. I was talking to a PT instructor that says they had to dial back everything. They don't do what they used to do because HEs will come up and say, man, don't put all that stress on these guys. Don't put all that pressure. So,
but then when they get to the field, already. But then when they get to the field, it's
so they're already coming out. So we don't have the senior patrol agent anymore. We don't have that buffer. So what do we do now, right? What does it look like now? And honestly, the way it is now, with this crisis, that's not going to be acknowledged by anybody in the, throughout all management of the patrol. Nobody's going to acknowledge that we're drowning, right? So they're not going to be pulled out of the water. So now it's every man for himself. It used to be a time when people transitioned, right? You had your packs that came in, did their time, got promoted up. You had your supervisor, you had your watch commanders, all that kind of stuff. Now everybody's in transition. Nobody wants to make a home anywhere. Right. Everybody's on their way somewhere else, right? So I don't believe at this point that the chaplaincy and peer support in the Border Patrol is the best in the country. When it comes to line of duty death, when it comes to responding to critical incidents and all those things, we're the highest trained as well, because some people get 8 hours training and they get thrown out into the field. We get hours after hours after hours of training.
Yep.
So we are
then advanced training.
We are the top in the country.
Yeah.
Okay. But when it comes to these other serious issues, I'm afraid that for the most part, we're going to have to go to an outside entity, outside DHS, outside CBP, because this culture does not trust in these programs anymore.
Yeah, and you're exactly right. You're exactly right, Gil. And like what Frank said earlier, our agents need to feel comfortable, and confident that they can talk to people on the outside, because we are a closed society, right? But camaraderie, right, is like a two-edged sword. When I first came in, we were smaller. Yeah, camaraderie was great. I don't advocate for all kinds of drinking and this and that, but tailgaters, choir practice, they had their place, right? They had their place. Guys get off of work, they blow off steam, right? They get together, and we always form that little BP circle everywhere you went, right? Everybody somehow ends up in a circle and just kind of blowing out steam before you go home, because when you go home, there's different issues that you have to deal with, right? And but now, processing, no field work, releasing everybody, and then going straight home, right? Not talking to anybody, not being able to, not even having time to talk to the person next to you when you're processing, right, about issues of what's going on. So all this stuff is bottled up inside now. You get home, and it's got to release somewhere, right? It's like a pressure cooker, right? And sad to say, once it releases, it releases at the most inopportune times, right? Something has to be a catalyst, right? To release that pressure. And it could be something that the spouse says. It could be something that the kids say. It could be something that an illegal alien says. They're illegal aliens, folks, not migrants, but the illegal aliens say, right? And then all of a sudden it explodes. Yeah. Right, and then it can lead to domestic violence. It can lead to violation of civil rights under the color of law, or it can lead to suicide. And sad to say, suicide, of course, with the stigma that's attached to it, you know, we've heard people say that, you know, suicide is he was a coward, right? He took the easy way out. He took the weak way out. You know, because there's always that stigma attached to it, right? And I've always said,
another myth.
Yeah, and I've always said, right, that we take better care of our agents when they're dead than when they're alive, right? One of the big, I mean, we've all been to Police Week. I mean, we like outshine Border Patrol, like outshines every agency at Police Week. Right? I mean, it's amazing.
We're there for them too, as well as us.
Yes, and yeah, other agencies look to us, right? It to help them out and to model what we do. But when they're alive, it's completely different.
You know what that reminds me of, guys, here, man? That reminds me of Jesus saying, whitewashed
tombs, man.
It looks pretty on the outside, but what about the issues inside? And so that's something we always advocate. I remember very early on, back in about 99, asking one of the assistant chiefs that, you know, was over the program, I needed some training. I told him, I need training. What kind of training do you need? I need some executive type of training that will tell me about the dynamics, the cultural mores, you know, the norms within the organization for this chaplaincy program to have long-term effect, to be of any effect. You need to, you know, look at the way that the organization thinks, the way it breathes, the way it moves, you know, to adequately address it. And so, of course, that was poo-pooed, you know. But the thing about it is that there are, you know, significant issues within our organization that contribute, guys. There's no way about it. The way that the organization is, the way it acts, the way internal processes work, these are also contributors to suicide by our Border Patrol agents. Right. You can't separate from that. You cannot deny that. You know, it's a part.
And Frank, and the thing about it is that, you know, we don't say we work for the Border Patrol, right? We say we are Border Patrol. Yeah. We identify as Border Patrol agents. And me and Manny talked about it yesterday or the other day. We were talking about the fact that even when we were in, every 3 to 6 months, we had to start the program from zero and convince the new chief, the new A chief, the new sector chief that these programs are viable. And if they thought it was a good idea and they can put their name on it, then it flew. And if not, we had to struggle for every hour of training, for every resource, for every car we needed, for any manpower, for all those things. We had to struggle all the time. So even to this day, guys, we all know that the Border Patrol has still not put the infrastructure in place that allows peer support, chaplaincy, and even EAP to really be proactive and effective 100%.
Because there has to be a consistency.
At this point, they're not going to do it. It's not going to happen. So now what?
Yeah. The resistance was always there. Look, one of the things that where I started going earlier with the professionalism, you know, us being professionals in our own right here, was that concept of you know, confidentiality. Remember, we used to talk about this. There's the
gosh, that was the best argument in the academies.
There's the attorney, you know, client privilege. There's the physician, you know, patient privilege, and then there's the clergy penitent privilege. We talked about that. And so what was abhorrent and what they could not stand, when I say they, is, you know, certain upper management.
But even the union want to get involved in that, man. That's,
They couldn't wrap their heads around the fact that, you know, you say we're the best. Right now they're trying to recruit all these people. Hey, come on board. We're going to give you $10,000, $15,000, $20,000 bonus, whatever. You're the best. You have what we need. You have the best to offer to America. Come and do it. You know, and of course they're lying to you, because for the most part, somewhere you're going to be, you know, behind a typewriter. But anyways, they say you're the best, but yet
I'm sorry, a computer. We don't
computer. But yet the thing about it, guys, is that you know, when we want to use that creativity, we want to use that that drive, that autonomy, that we see the solution. We are the end user. We are stakeholders as well. We know what this organization needs. Something you said, Gil, because it's not their idea, it's not a good idea at all. They have to buy into it. And so we were the types of persons that said, look, this is not about personal acclaim, about us, checking a box to promote and go anywhere else. This is about really, truly doing what needs to be done for the good of the men and women in the Border Patrol. And to that extent, what needed to happen, and it's probably too late, like you're saying, Gil, was that the vision of chaplaincy program, specifically because peer support, I love the guys and girls that are in it, but they were under the control of an EAP, hence contracted, clinician, and they were gonna, so they weren't gonna be nowhere near as effective as they could have been. But anyways,
and Frank, let me throw some fire. Let me throw some gas on the fire. I believe, and I'm not going to give a percentage or a number, that there's a certain number of percentage of peer support people and chaplain people that are getting graduated from those academies and sent out into the field that should not be peer support or chaplaincy. They don't have a calling for it. They don't have the temperament for it. We have to pass them at the academy because of the numbers, but they won't even respond to anything outside their shift. Us three have had our take-home rides where we respond 24/7. We've gone out on calls and not come back for days.
I remember
today. Nobody will respond if it's not on their shift. You know what? So have someone else do it. So honestly, even that process is already corrupted as well, and it's become a kind of a crony good old boy program.
And what happened was it became a feather in their cap. They could say, "Look, this is a chaplaincy and a peer support program. This is what we do." And once again, it reminds me of the whitewashed tombs. It looks good on the outside, but there's issues inside. You're right, and that does touch on a couple of things here, guys. That look, you said something, Gil. These people should not even.
I got Frank all fired up.
They should not graduate. They should not graduate. You're right, bro. You're right. And now we're talking about two different academies here. One of them is the Support Services Academy. That takes place. Peer support and chaplaincy, but that they shouldn't even graduate from the academy to begin with. Leading the Border Patrol Academy. Look, there's always going to be. A certain type of mental, emotional, spiritual makeup that's needed for this job. And there are people in this organization
to survive it, yes.
Yeah, and any law enforcement organization that have no business in law enforcement. They have no business, having authority over the freedoms and even the lives of other people. They're just not there.
Well, I'm going to
that's a small percentage.
And I'm going to tell you too, and I agree with you completely because as I was retiring, I remember talking with younger agents who really didn't understand the meaning of the oath of office, right? Which was puzzling to me because a lot of them were for. I've talked to quite a few agents, brothers, who younger agents who are all for legalizing of drugs, right? And legalizing of this and legalizing of that. That maybe we shouldn't enforce this and maybe we shouldn't enforce that. I'm like, well, what are you doing here then? I mean, why are you here if you're not going to want to enforce the law? But it's sad to say because a lot of them are trapped behind a desk now, have no experience in field work, and I've even talked. I'm just throwing it out there. I've even talked to quite a few who are afraid of the dark, and don't want to go out there, man. And I'm not trying to slam agents because it's far and few between. But I've talked to some, and I'm thinking, and as a chaplain, you're sitting there trying to listen to this, right? Like you're afraid of the dark. I mean, we work in the dark. I mean, that's and so it's amazing to me. But but talking the thought process, I think with law enforcement suicide, a lot of people ask, well, why go to such extremes in regards to that? Well, here's I'm going to let you in, for those who are listening and watching, let you in on a little area with law enforcement. For us, our whole way of thinking basically changes, right, from civilian life to law enforcement life when you graduate the academy. Like when I joined the Army, they always used to tell us, there's three ways of doing things: the right way, the wrong way, and the Army way, right? That's the way you did things, right? But and so when you get into law enforcement, there's no longer any gray area.
Yeah. Right?
There's no gray area. And then you learn, if you knew how to communicate before you went to the academy, you really don't know how to communicate when you leave the academy because our communication system, the way we deal with problems is we have the privilege of solving our issues within 5 to 10 minutes, right? What I mean by that is when you're out there patrolling or you arrest somebody or apprehend somebody, you determine within a few minutes if they're breaking the law, right? And problem solved. At home, it's completely different because you can't detach from that gray area. right? I mean, you can't detach from the black and white, right? Because at home, there's gray areas at home, dealing with your children, dealing with your spouse, dealing with the community, right? And because we can't detach, your whole way of thinking basically becomes discombobulated, and the stress, and then the stress is different, right? It's, I talked about it earlier, the most stress for people in the workplace is a consistent kind of stress, right? It's kind of consistent, right? Oh, I got to do this, I got to do that. In law enforcement, there's a name for it. It's called burst stress. Burst stress is like, okay, I'm going here, boom, and all of a sudden something happens.
There's a
and
car chase, there's
car
people
chase,
running.
Exactly. And then all of a sudden it comes down, right? And then boom, it hits up again. And then sometimes you get a low point, right? So, and then at home, to tell you the truth, I think that's why, what's the average lifespan of a retired agent, right? A retired officer, right? You know, and I hate the stat. I hate it because of like, what, 5 to 6 years, right? So I'm going on 2 years. So anyway, but it just, what happens is you get hit with that burst stress all the time for 20 plus years, right? And then your body has to adjust. Your way of thinking has to adjust.
Yeah.
Folks, I'm explaining all this because I want you to understand the mindset of a law enforcement agent, right? And so when you're over here trying to do your job, you take this oath of office. I swear to defend the United States Constitution against any enemy, foreign and domestic. And then you're seeing your own government, right, letting everybody go, knowing that these people are coming here to do damage.
And somebody here said, hey, thanks for the input here, guys. It said, hey, look, the supervisors are caught in the crosshairs. Exactly. Yeah, that's what we said. Look, it's very easy to just generalize and say everybody, but the truth is that there's a few at the very top that are playing along with the administration. They're not
making the decisions.
They're making the decisions, and that's why I bring the example of the air marshals in, and to say, no, we're just not going to do what. Are you going to lose 5, 10, 15,000 agents all at once? They're not going to.
No.
So sometimes, the Border Patrol became a jewel in the crown of DHS back in 2003 when we became a part of DHS. It was like, oh my God, look at this organization who had,
We caught everybody's everything, right?
On its own, we had done the best we could. That was part of our creed. That was part of our honor, is that we did the best we could with what we had, knowing that we were the redheaded stepchild of INS, Immigration Naturalization Service. But because why? Because we believed in honor. We believed in our motto. We believed in the Constitution. And those are the things, guys, that we tried to put into place for the good of this organization that they didn't see as fit. But I tell you what, they didn't see it as worthy, or they poo-pooed it or whatever. Look, let me give you an example, and I think it really would have gone a long ways to address a lot of these issues. I don't know if you guys recall. I love the acronyms, but there was a lifestyle adjustment workshops. Remember that?
Yeah.
Laws. Lifestyle adjustment workshops. And what we said was, Border Patrol agents enforce laws. Well, there's certain dynamics and rules for living that these agents are going to have to understand and abide by. They're going to have to live by these laws. And what we were talking about would have encompassed relationship dynamics, would have been all of a sudden, you're a kid coming out of college, you're a kid coming out of a grocery store job as a federal agent. What does that start doing for your ego? What does that start doing for your mindset? You need to be prepared to, deal with that, because otherwise pride comes in and arrogance comes in. And so that's what we were talking about, lifestyle adjustment workshops. The other thing that we remember, guys, that I felt real strong that we needed to push was patriotism. We did not wear a flag anywhere on our uniform. And I always said, why
are we wearing a flag?
Why aren't we wearing a flag? If we are defending this country, the greatest nation on the face of the earth, why don't we wear a little badge pin somewhere, the stars and stripes? And what we wanted to do as chaplains was to teach topics such as patriotism, selflessness, doing something, working for something that's bigger than yourself. I think that a lot of these things would have had a long-term impact on the organization. But, they were kind of seen as, out in the air kind of topics. But look, nobody has a crystal ball here, but I think
everybody's afraid to touch anything because a lot of times our supervisors.
But look, guys, like today, right? Today, Mayorkas is going to go to El Paso. He's going to stand before all these agents in the background that has been brushed out and cleaned and clean, right? They've purged and cleansed the environment for him, so it's all beautiful and clean, knowing that uh, the edict came from headquarters to the stations, get rid of 10,000 of these people and release them and get them out of here so that when our boss shows up, the house is nice and clean and in order.
Yeah.
Now the agents have to stand there and swallow their vomit as they hear this guy look him in the face and say, the border's closed, the border's secure. You're doing a fantastic job. Everything's just hunky dory, and we're just doing everything we can. We're enforcing the law. We're enforcing the immigration laws, and it just makes you want to crawl out of your skin. And that feeling, 100% of the time across months and months and months and years, you don't think that's, after a while it just wears out the soul,
it wears on you,
mind, it wears out your heart.
I mean, it's like, well, it's like now. I mean, we got a lot of police officers across the nation that are quitting. They're having suicide issues as well because they're letting everybody go. They're releasing people, and it's a sad thing to say, And I'm gonna say this. I know we'll probably go over a little quite a bit today because it's a very important topic, but. Here's the thing. This is my opinion. Mayorkas, every Secretary of Department of Homeland Security is not the subject matter expert when it comes to the border. They're not, because they oversee different agencies, so they're not. They depend on their chiefs to be the subject matter experts, right? Every border. That's why I respected Rodney Scott when he says, "No, I'm not calling them migrants.
They're aliens.
They're illegal aliens," right? And he's a subject matter expert. He knows better. That's why they have all these stars on their collar, so they could sit there like the Joint Chiefs of Staff, right, in the military. They're there to tell the president, no, this is not the way to go. Of course, this administration doesn't listen. Yeah, give us the Merchant of Death, and we'll, the only WNBA.
Sell all the weapons to the Ukraine.
Yeah, the only WNBA trade that ever made the news, right? But anyway, so Ortiz should be sitting. The Border Patrol chief should be sitting in front of Marcus home and no. This is not the way we're supposed to do things. This is how it works. And stand up for our people. Stand up for our agents. I remember when they were attacking our pay, OFO, Customs, their people stood up and said, no, we're not accepting that. They stood before Congress and said, no, we're not going to accept that pay. And then our chief at the time, Mike Fisher, right? I saw he goes and he sits before Congress and he says the complete opposite. Well, we'll adapt. Of course, you'll adapt. You're an executive, right?
Yeah, he's a senior. He's an SCS guy.
And then he goes across the country to muster, saying, "Who here was promised AUO when they got hired?"
Everybody.
Hello. I remember coming out and saying, "Hey, Frank, on your I-50, they called it the Live 50, but anyways, I won't go too much. That was the timesheet. And hey, Frank, you're supposed to put 2 hours of overtime here, but anyway, let's not get too much into that."
Yes.
The thing about it was, one of the things that I want, there's so many thoughts going through my head here.
We're gonna have to have you on again, Gil, because you're helping us vent, bro. You're helping us vent.
But it has to do with Mayorkas, going down. He'll be in El Paso. Supposedly he's coming to Del Rio.
Yeah.
But remember, guys, and don't be fooled. These were the same people. The elected officials, some of them, Henry Cuellar down in Laredo, endorsed by the union. Tony Gonzalez here, who's getting what he wanted. Remember, he wanted to push for regional processing centers, and now it's happening. But the union endorsed him. And don't forget, folks, for you all that are watching out there that ask me, hey, well, how come they endorsed him and not you, Frank? I didn't want the union endorsement. Why? Because they endorsed Mayorkas back in 2019. They endorsed the very people that are adding fuel to the fire. The Border Patrol Union at the highest levels, Brandon Judd primarily, endorsed these traitors, treasonous actors to America.
And now it's advocating for amnesty.
And so even worse, Mayorkas allowed one of the killers of Newton Azrak to go free when he was AG in California, and they endorsed the son of a bitch. I mean, he walking around wearing Newton and Azrak's patch, dishonoring their memory when he's the one that allowed one of his killers. Are you kidding me?
Mocking the memory.
I didn't know that the union had endorsed them.
And so what? Let me tell you, folks, here what Gil's talking about, Newton Azrak. That is an award. There were two Border Patrol agents out in California that were killed in the line of duty. So the Border Patrol created an award. And the Newton Azrak Award, Newton and Azrak being the last names of these agents. But anyways, That's given out as the highest honor to exemplary courage in the line of duty. Being injured in the now they came out with the what's it called, the Purple Cross now for line of duty injuries. But Newton Azrak Award was a very prestigious honor, and Alejandro Mayorkas, as Attorney General of the state of California, released their killer. One of their killers, he released them. Mayorkas did, and the Border
killer
Patrol,
of a federal agent, yeah.
and the Border Patrol Union, which is supposed to look out for the concerns and the
exemplify
issues
the
of Border Patrol agents.
Yes.
They endorsed the guy that let out the killer of Border Patrol agents, and they endorsed in this district
Yeah, and
the
then- and then-
congressman
and then-
that's sitting here allowing this to happen.
And then he has the gall to wear the patch, the Nazareth
Yes.
patch in front of agents, right?
Yes.
And
Which
I mean,
made me sick to my
folks,
stomach.
he was always for sanctuary cities. Same with his crony. Of course, they got rid of Magnus, but
Out of Arizona.
out of Arizona, they were all for sanctuary cities. They made their careers on hating Border Patrol,
Yes.
right? And
Yes.
now they're in charge. He's in charge.
And let me tell you something about look. We all know Ortiz here. We all worked with Raul
Hey,
Ortiz.
guys, calm down though. Just calm down.
I'll tell you, man.
Well, real quick here, Gil. Let
Feel
me
attention.
let me tell you something here. Mr. Ortiz came down here and look, and I told him, "Man, I love you, bro. Because he's a green shirt, and he helped the chaplaincy program.
Yeah, he did.
And I told him at that time at the Civic Center, I said, he had just announced that he had been selected as the chief of the Border Patrol. Hey, great. Okay, kudos, great. You're at the top of your game here, whatever. But I said to him that day at the Civic Center, and it's on video, I said, you now have a place at the table. Yeah. A place at the table, because exactly what you said, Manny, he is the subject matter expert on Border Patrol, on border issues, national security, U.S. border issues. He is the expert on that. And I told him, you have a place at the table. You can influence and you can direct the conversation. I didn't say it in so many words, but you have a place at the table. You can speak for our border communities. I did say that. You can speak on behalf of the women of border communities. Why? Because that's something that we always pride ourselves on in the Border Patrol. We even have the Border Safety Initiative, and we do talk, it's part of our pillars, providing security for the communities of the border. So anyways, you have an opportunity, Mr. Ortiz, to speak on behalf of the communities of this sector, of the border regions. And this is what he said, guys, and it's on video. I don't get into politics. I don't get into politics. Two things that, either it's totally being naive about your role, or it is just being duplicitous, disingenuous.
He's not naive and he's not stupid. Let me
Well,
tell you.
and so that's the other thing.
You can't get in that position like that. Yeah.
But exactly. So it's a rhetorical question here. The thing is, he said, "I don't get into politics." Really, one of the most. It's always, it
That's
had
one of the
always
most
been a
political
political
positions, yeah.
position.
It's always a
It
political.
had been.
Yeah.
And then
And he did, didn't he?
Yeah.
oh, he
He
sure
did get
did.
into politics.
Big time, bro. And so look, for the men and women, we've said it, man. Geez, I'm glad I'm out. Hey, look, they're touting a 14% increase. You think about it, that's probably gonna get them back to where we were back. When I got out in 2019. When I got out at the end of 2018. We had lost money. We all did. We lost a lot of money that they took away from us. And so, the 14% increase, I guess it might somewhat equate, not counting in inflation. But anyways, we lost money. But even that's another topic, guys, here. And
Yeah, we're gonna have to have you back on Gil, because like even when Trump was president, right? We were making less money, but the suicide rate. Right.
Yeah, and the job effectiveness and the morale and
Yeah.
the
morale was-
mainly the effectiveness of our mission.
We've talked about it, Gil. I don't know how you guys were, but there were times when President Trump was in office, there were days we had zero apprehensions, man. There were days we had zero apprehensions, right? And people were like, "You for the wall? You for the wall?" I said, I don't mind a wall. I don't mind, because it's a force multiplier.
It's a tool.
It's a
The
tool,
wall's
right?
not the end all be all, it's a tool.
But it's the laws that because the illegal aliens knew if they got caught under Trump, they were going to get deported. right?
There was going to be consequences.
be
and that's something that's
consequences.
totally missing here. The only consequence here is come to America.
Come to
You know,
America.
you know that
Do I get an iPhone?
you know that
No, yeah.
come and take it.
Oh, when do my benefits start?
When do my benefits start? And people don't realize that the illegal aliens ask that. They ask those questions, man. Where's my money? Where's my phone? Here, take care of my pet, right? I mean, this is it's ridiculous.
Feed them 3 times a day.
Real
Yeah.
quick, guys, real quick. Bill Malusian just notified me that he posted a video of all these people being released in Brownfield, Texas. They're literally just been released, not even the NGOs, whatever, just
Oh my God.
gone.
Well, in
Released.
Brownsville or
El Paso.
In El Paso.
Brownsville, yeah.
Brownsville.
Yeah, it's on Twitter. It's on Twitter if you want to take a look at it. But yeah, he just notified me that he released that a video of just people, mass releasing hundreds of migrants at a parking garage.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I got a bone to pick with Bill. I'll throw it out here in the air, man. But anyways,
Well, don't get us started. Don't get us started.
we'll talk about it later.
Yeah,
but-
don't get us started on the NGOs either. That's gonna be a whole nother hour, man.
Well, let me say something real quick about the NGOs. Tony Gonzalez, a congressman in this district, was the only one that didn't sign this border security pact that they just announced a few days ago. And notice that Kevin McCarthy was not there. It was primarily some of the Texas delegation of congressmen. Tony Gonzalez was the only Texas congressman, I believe, that did not sign that. And even if he wasn't, he has the largest border patrol district in Texas. He did not sign that. Why? Because there is a key provision in there dealing with cutting off the funding, investigating the NGOs.
Oh, he's tied in.
He's in bed with the NGOs.
He's in bed with the
That's why he
NGOs,
didn't sign it. But see, that's the thing, folks. Look, you got to be open-minded about this, and you got to, and really more important than that, you got to have your eyes open to what is happening here in our country. The people that we elect and the people that are appointed, the bureaucrats, they're selling out America. They are selling you out, and those that believe that, I saw somebody post earlier, and I'm not slamming you for posting this, talking about, well, we're going to have the House in 2023. You know what?
We had the House and the Senate.
We
at one point,
had
right?
we had three. We had in 2016 we had the House, the Senate, and President
And the
Trump,
president.
and the Republicans pushed back against
and the
him.
Speaker. And they fought against Trump, man.
They fought back against him, and so look, 23. The answer is not. Honestly, at the end of the day, it's not political, folks. Although politics drive so many of the issues affecting our lives, the answer is spiritual. The answer is God. It is the Word of God.
And I get fired up about all this, and I know we gone from topic to topic to topic, and then coming back to the suicides that the Border Patrol has suffered recently, 3 in one sector in 3 weeks, right? They had 3 in 3 weeks, and then 14 this year. Look, folks, pray for our agents. Pray for them, because right now, I remember when we used to be under the radar. I used to tell people, I'm with the Border Patrol. What? Who are they? Right? And now we're like everywhere. We're like national news. But still, at the number of agents that we have, it still hasn't really increased. We're still a small family, right? We're still pretty small compared to the other agencies, but we do a lot of work, right? They do a lot of things to protect this country. But when our hands are tied, when our agents' hands are tied, and they're not able, and then they're not able to deal with family issues, a few years ago, I had to write an in-depth resource review. I think Gil, you were up in DC still when we had to put together in-depth resource review for the chaplaincy program and its nexus to the chief's mission of the Border Patrol. To how does the chaplaincy help produce better agents, and not only that, for a more secure border. Folks, the greatest gripe that agents have is not being able to enforce the law that they swore to uphold, right? And as a retired agent, I see this, and it frustrates me every single day that when I look on the news and I see everybody being released, because I know the type of people that are in those groups. The waters of the Rio Grande do not miraculously cleanse the soul when they come through, right?
Baptism.
It's not baptism, right? And they come in and they're a different type of person. No, actually, they're freer to do what they were doing as far as law breaking goes in their country of origin. Now they're freer to do it. This is why we're having this influx of fentanyl. This is why we're having this influx of sex offenders. This is why historic. This is why sex offender. Yeah, exactly right. Sex offenders gone up more than 2,000% since Biden has been in office here in our area anyway. And then not only that, but the NGOs are complicit in human sex trafficking, child sex trafficking. Texas has become #1 in human sex trafficking, since Biden has been in office. This folks, and then compiled and piled on with the agents, knowing that they may be releasing a fraudulent family, an older,
God.
it weighs on you. That how can you sleep at night? It's hard to sleep at night knowing, did I release a child to a sex offender?
And that's
Manny,
why.
it, think about this for a moment, and it was said best. We are completing the last leg of this smuggling operation,
Yes.
because we're in essence getting them to their final destination, which could be anything from a sex labor, work labor, organ harvesting.
Oh my gosh!
Look,
We are the ones completing the trip, completing the journey.
it's as simple, and that's why you have people leaving the Border Patrol. You have people resigning, saying, "I'm not doing this." They're leaving, and that's why I brought up the air marshals. What do? Do you have a national green fever and just go on strike of some kind? That's something to talk.
They can't.
Yeah, that's one.
No, because it's not our nature.
That's one issue. Exactly. That's what I was going to say. It goes against our nature. That's why you have agents leaving and you have supervisors that are busting down. They're saying, you know what? I'm not going to direct my fellow agents to break the law. I'm not going to direct my fellow agents to do something that they don't want to do when it's so blatantly against the Constitution. That's in a sense is a form of protest per se. Short of totally just quitting the agency, going out, and now you've got to scrape to pay bills and mortgages.
So what has been what's been how these agents dealt with it? They've minimized it to, well, at least we're recording their names. We have to come up with some type of deal with this.
And that goes with the complexity of these people, these agents. They're people, they're human beings, they are complex. The Word of God says they are wonderfully knit, wonderfully made by our Creator. We are complex human beings. And like what you were saying, Gil, earlier, yes, in a sense, when you really sit down and you think about it, and we've said this before, we are the spigot. There's this pipeline that starts all around the world. They get into the cartel pipeline, and at the spigot end, releasing that pressure into America are the Border Patrol agents, ICE, CBP, that are being forced to do something that is contrary to the law, contrary to the Constitution, and more importantly, contrary to who they are as persons who were wonderfully, miraculously put together by a Creator God.
And Gil,
Hey, I know we got to go. So let me just say something real quick. The union criticizes me and says, "Oh, all of a sudden you retired and now you got the balls to go out and speak vocally and publicly and everything else." As if what? As if all the agents right now and that are in are cowards because they don't speak up. You can't, when you're in it. You can't go out and do those things. You got a job to protect. You got a paycheck, a retirement, all those things. You got to think about as well, because you got families to take care of. So nobody speaks up when they're working like that and without losing their jobs. Right.
But at the same time,
what does that make? Huh?
Yeah, but at the same time, people ask me, why do you think agents stay? And I said, you hold on to hope, right? You hold on to hope that it's going to change.
Just ride the storm.
You ride it, and then you hope, because the people who can say stuff, they keep 100% of their retirement, right? They don't lose their benefits. It's like an act of Congress to take away their benefits. And I'm talking about the chiefs that are up at the top, right?
Yes.
They're executives. Us, they could take away everything, right? They could take our whole livelihood, right? If our agents speak up.
There's a table of a disciplinary table. People, not outside the agency, not outside government. Maybe if you're in the government, you know about this. But there's a table of offenses that you can get in trouble for everything from a verbal, a reprimand, all the way up to termination.
Yep. And the categories of lack of candor. Everything's like lack of candor, right?
Part of it can be, not.
And the union risks nothing.
Yeah, failure to obey orders, failure to follow instructions. Those are some of the basics. So I'm not gonna process anymore. Failure to follow instructions. And there you go. You get into a disciplinary pipeline, but that is why agents are quitting. Management supervisors are busting down. That is what they are doing. With what they have available to them, and that's part of it. And so you're right, guys. We do have to lift up these men and women in prayer. They're going through a difficult time, and so are their families. If these agents, they have parents, they have siblings, they have spouses and children. Everybody is feeling the effect of it. And right now, something that's coursing through the Border Patrol family, guys, is not just concern, but it is fear. It is fear. And so that's why we're here as three former chaplains, three retired Border Patrol agents, and we're still involved in ministry in some way or another. But we understand what you and your families are going through. Yeah. And so do not be afraid. Do not hesitate to reach out to us, to reach out to those of us that have retired, because we are outside and we inherently know the issues that are affecting you and your families. We are the creators of the Border Patrol Chaplaincy Program. We were dealing with these issues from the very beginning. And so this is just letting you know you are not alone. And the Border Patrol family is huge. As I said, we're a family. We're dysfunctional at times. We are, but we still care about each other. And so once again, just to reiterate, you can contact us on social media. Some of you all may have our numbers, messages, all that stuff. But we know that every agent is not alone, and there are certainly supervisors, managers, fellow employees that care about you. They do. There's some good people out there.
Yes.
But
take care of those that take care of you.
Yes. But there is also, guys, we have to acknowledge that there is this because it is a hierarchical type of organization. There is this sense of you don't buck orders. You don't rock the boat. You do as you're told. You keep your mouth quiet. Do as I say, not as I do kind of element to it. We understand that. And so that's why we're out here putting ourselves as resources to you.
But that may be the reason they got rid of the senior patrol agent position, bro, because those crusty senior patrol agents, bro, used to rock the boat,
it would
right?
Speak up.
It would speak up on behalf of the agents, man. I mean, that they were like a good voice, because we really weren't afraid of much, right?
Yeah.
But to say anything,
we saw our role as defending the junior agent. Yeah. That was part of the generational mentorship that has been removed when they did away with the senior Border Patrol agent. For you all folks, real quick education, you were a journeyman at the GS9 level back then, and you had to compete for an 11 as a senior Border Patrol agent. It was a prestigious position because you had to compete against your fellow agents. But then what the agency did, because they wanted to grow, because they got more money thrown at them, they wanted to expand their kingdoms, what they did is they made it a automatic step. You went from a 9 to an 11 non-competitively. You didn't have to compete. And they did away with the senior Border Patrol agent position.
And they're basically the ones who groomed the agents, right? They raised up the agents, they trained the agents, and defended the agents.
There used to be that
and passed down our traditions and our heritage and legacy.
And I've said it, the narratives of a people, the stories that they told around the campfire before the written word, and they passed on through literature, through stories, through the retelling of who they are as a people, makes them who they are exactly as a people. And it also imparts the values, the mores, the system of principles that you believe in was passed on. And so the Border Patrol lost a lot of that. It lost a lot of that. And part of it is just through change, but part of it is through wokeism, and part of it is very deliberate, like they're doing to the military right now, to undermine, in the end, its effectiveness and its ability, the DoD specifically, to destroy our enemies. They're taking that away from them, and so what they're doing to the Border Patrol is taking away our effectiveness at securing, and they've done it, at least for now, taking away our effectiveness at preserving our sovereignty, defending our borders, and protecting our communities from sick, evil, perverted, twisted people who are pouring across the border as well. And part of it is to feed the perversity that it's already in place here in America. Like you were talking about earlier, Manny, there is a hunger, a lust for the bodies of little boys and little girls in this country. And this invasion is feeding that.
It's feeding it.
But we got politicians and bureaucrats that are aiding and abetting in that.
Yeah, Gil, we're gonna have to close shop here in a little bit. Close down here a little bit. We want to give you
2 hours.
almost 2 hours. Yeah, and it flew by. But Gil, what would you say to the agency? I mean, as far as helping our agents out in this with this issue of suicide.
Well, right now, what I would say is, if you can, if you're willing to trust the process and you have, a good, solid peer support or chaplain people, or even a well-recommended EAP person that you can go to, don't hesitate to do it. But do not hesitate to get help anywhere you can,
Anywhere.
even if it has to come out of pocket, even if you have to pay with your own medical. Go get the help you need anywhere. And there's no law against that.
Yeah.
There's nothing against that. And nobody has to know, right? You can ask for your sick leave. You can ask for AL, whatever you got to do, but get the help you need, even if it means going completely outside the agency with no connection, so that you can save your own life. You can take care of yourself, regardless of what it costs, because ultimately that's better than drowning so much in your own darkness that eventually you're not even aware that you're going to die.
Yep. And people
that you've made that choice.
Very good, very good. A lot of agents need to realize that suicide is a permanent solution to a temporary issue, right? I mean, and it can be cyclic, sad to say. I mean, you can pass that on to your children. Hey, my mother and my father dealt with this.
75%, Manny.
Yep.
75% chance of your children using that as a coping mechanism if you do it yourself.
And believe it or not, I've had to explain to agents too that we've held counsel that some would always say, well, at least my family will get benefits and they'll see that I get honors. No. Law enforcement does not give honors, right? At best, you'll get you may not even get a flag, maybe taps, right? That's it.
Well, the Border Patrol is actually trying right now to move toward making suicides line of duty deaths. In fact, they made one a line of duty death here in San Diego.
Oh, really?
So, yes, which I hate to say it, and this might sound callous, but I do not agree with that. I think that it should be acknowledged and things like that, but making it a line of duty death, I believe it's a bad message.
I could see the argument. Look, what have we been talking about? We've been talking about the work conditions,
Sure.
being part of the reason some people take their lives, the reason some people commit suicide. Yeah. That's a thorny, complex issue.
It is a big. We have to talk about that because
a whole other program.
Yeah, exactly. Because, like I said, a lot of agents kind of use that as kind of trying to convince themselves. Not a lot, but quite a few that I've talked to try to convince themselves. Well, at least my family will get the line of duty benefits.
And as chaplains here, ministers, rabbi. You could even get into the whole spiritual realm of, is suicide the ultimate sin? Is it a keep you out of heaven sin kind of whole discussion we could have as well?
But the reality is, folks, it doesn't stop the pain. All it does is it lays it on the shoulders of other survivors. There are people who care about you.
Transfers it.
And I'm going to tell, if you're a supervisor and you're watching this, because in my opinion, at the first line supervisor level, you guys play an important role in helping our agents, right? If you're going to promote, if you don't like these programs, these support programs, then shut up. Keep it to yourself, right? Because if you're promoting this program like, oh, there's a chaplain, there's a peer support EAP, if you want a hug, go get one. Because what you just done is you just shut down. You shut the door, right, to an agent getting help.
But part of the dynamic we spoke about, one of the things I didn't mention is the whole peer pressure atmosphere. This is a world of the alpha dogs. This is the world of, those Guinness más macho kind of thing.
We're all A-type personalities in this.
All A-type personalities. And so, we that has to be taken into account. When you're dealing with something like this, the response cannot be callous. It cannot be aloof. Of course, we're not going to, trip over ourselves, and somehow all of a sudden, make you as some kind of, special needs kind of a person or anything that you need, different kinds of attention. But it has to be dealt with, level-headed. It has to be dealt with maturity and with an approach that says, look, there are people in this world and definitely being allowed into the Border Patrol who are a product of society, a product of the culture, a product of the way they were brought up with, and not everybody, gets taught the same coping mechanisms, the same ways of dealing with problems that other people do. And so, yeah, what you guys are saying about, you need the help, get it wherever you can get it.
Yeah. Call us. You can reach out to us. I mean, we're available on social media. And I'm willing to talk with anybody, especially our men and women in green, man. If you need help, let us know, and we'll get you in touch with some people. Gil,
Absolutely.
we want to thank you so much, brother, for
Thank you, brother.
being a part of our program this morning. I know we kind of went over. It's usually an hour program, but man, we almost went 2 hours, brother. But it's such a joy and a blessing to have you with us.
We'll schedule another one.
Yeah, we'll schedule another one, man, so we can talk about some more stuff, brother, and maybe we can, share some virtual tacos together, and
Hey,
whatnot.
that'd be great.
And they're not gonna.
God bless you guys, and it was an honor to serve with you and to know you and to work with you in the chaplaincy and as Border Patrol agents, and it's an honor and pleasure to be with you here today as well.
Oh, man, thank you,
bless you,
brother.
bro.
God bless you, brother. You be safe and give our love to your family and whatnot, and you have
Stay safe and stay sane.
and stay blessed, brother. Stay blessed. So we'll talk to you soon, brother. God bless.
Take care.
All right, folks. We want to thank you so much for joining us today. I mean, man, we had a lot going on today, Frank. A lot of topics going on, but I think it's a very important topic.
They're all related, brother.
It's all related, man. It's all related. And, to our men and women in green, I just want to express to you that, we care about you all. We care about you all. We may be retired, but we still, like the saying goes, bleed green, right? We still bleed green. And if you need help, please reach out to somebody. And if you see a fellow agent who's in need of help, reach out to them. What's that say? What do we, when we come up to try to check up on somebody, hey, we have that 10 code, right? 1018. Check on your partner, man. Check on your buddies and make sure they're doing okay. And don't be afraid to ask the tough questions if they need help. And the supervisors, right? If you see somebody who needs help, I know a lot of times you're bound by policy, but don't throw them on admin duty right away. Don't throw them on the rubber gun squad and then add fuel to the fire. Help them get the help that they need. Be a resource for them.
Yep. Hey, I just lost in thought about all these different things, folks. There's a lot of, I've always said it, man. And you could really just chase bunnies all over the place here. There's a lot of different dynamics at work here. These are very complex issues. And that's why people say, "Hey, Frank, aren't you going to be filming the border?" Yeah, here and there, folks. But there's a lot of different issues that are impacting our country. And I'll be honest with you, it's depressing, man. To go and film just a continual tidal wave of people. How much of that footage can do you need to see? How much? I mean, my God, it's just all that does is just add insult to injury here.
Add to the ire and
to the anger, the frustration. It's out there. But part of what we need to do is create, awareness. We need to educate people. We need to empower people to do something. Part of it, is by getting involved, and part of it is by educating yourself. Reading, and don't take things at face value. Don't just because a politician tells you, something, don't believe it.
Yeah.
Go research it for yourself. But dealing with today's topic of suicide in the Border Patrol. I was getting texts here throughout the show here. Thank you all for watching. Thank you for spreading the word. And you got to cover each other. Take care of each other. But we're here. We're part of the family. And so we're available to you as well.
And, we're both, I'm a rabbi, Frank's a minister. We have, clergy penitent privilege. It stays with us. It stays with us, and we're always willing to help. But folks, until next time, God willing, we'll see you next Taco Tuesday, 8 a.m. here we're on Facebook, YouTube, Rumble. We'll be on Spotify later, as well as Amazon Music. You can go to our website, look at our videos as well, and then reach out to us if you want to. Tacoboutlive@gmail.com. And folks, we want to say thank you so much for joining us, and God bless you, God bless America, and God bless Texas.